Okay, hello and welcome to the channel. This is going to be hopefully a pretty quick video just of me outlining what this is that I'm selling. Um, if you haven't seen my past few live streams, I kind of quietly uploaded this after them. The live streams pretty much cover the sculpting part of this, but not the substance generator part. I did do a substance generator creation live stream, but unfortunately my mic broke halfway through it and I didn't realise. So that one isn't up. So what you would need to do if you wanted to learn that stuff through a video, you can just search Advanced Substance Designer to Painter and look at my old video, which is more or less the same system. But with all that out of the way, what we're creating here is a rock, and we kind of just want to use the baked maps to generate as much of the information as possible, because you've got a lot of freedom with that, especially when you start overlaying other textures and stuff from Substance. You won't necessarily need to texture anything by hand, even though you can still. And the main point of this is that it's, rocks are so common, especially in stylized games. You got your journey style games, where you're pretty much going through a barren landscape with rocks everywhere, and they aren't necessarily even textured that much. And when they are textured, they're textured very predictably. So you don't even need to have it as advanced as this one here. Literally just be like taking it in, baking, and then bam, you've got a texture right there. It just makes a lot of sense. And what I've created here allows for multiple styles. That's not created with the generator, that's created with the masks in a node-based system. In this case, Unreal, I created those with, but you'd be able to create your variations in anything. Blender, Unity, most softwares are node-based these days because that is also a very smart system. So, the contents as seen in a folder are right here. You got yourself a high and low poly version of this rock that we've used in the previews, and then you've got three textures. I only really use two. You've got your normal, which is very important, and then you've got your base color and masks. The masks are only to be used when you don't want to use just a straight up base color. So for example, this one is the base color as it is imported, and this one is 100% masks only. And the idea with that left one there is to make it look as much like the painted one as possible. But with it being masks only, it's inputting colours that you can then change for biomes and such. And so that's kind of how that works. So you've got your substance file there as well, and this SBSL file, which is the file that you export from Substance that is compatible with Substance Painter, Alchemist, I think, and generally some other softwares run by Substance. Opening the Substance graph, I just want to make sure that people sort of know what they're getting here. It is a little bit spaghetti junction, but I'm not too sure how to clean it up even more than it is. It's quite spread out, and I think I prefer the readability of it when it's all in boxes rather than the readability of it when it's kind of, I don't think the spaghettiness is an issue, hopefully, for anyone. But what I would do is open this up and read it left to right, as you would with any substance. I'm just making sure that I would run through this and learn from it. I wouldn't just use this blindly. I'm hoping that people that buy this and download this want to learn from it and expand upon it. I'm going to mention some things that I haven't implemented that you could easily implement in 5 seconds. So let's take a look at the actual workflow, and then we'll talk about some of that afterwards. I've sculpted a brand new rock here that I've not tested, and this is the high poly. It's got just a few features. I'm not too bothered about the back. I just want a few features on the front here that show like sharp edges because it uses curvature, ambient occlusion because it uses ambient occlusion, as well as some some surface stuff. basically just a big little, just a quick little test. And that's the situation. High and low poly. I've already brought that low poly into Substance Painter here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake it. So I want to immediately bake my high and low polys. I sculpted this rock in like, in like 2 minutes. It really, with a mouse, just running over it to make something new, to test this thing out on. And so I'm going to bake real quick. And now that it's baked, not perfectly, the UV map isn't great, but it is square, and it does need to be square, as we will look at in a minute. So we got ourselves that, and I'm going to go add a new layer, and then I'm going to add a generator to this layer. And at the moment I haven't imported that, so we can go back into these downloaded files, and we can just drag this and drop it into into Painter as a generator. Hopefully you're familiar with this sort of import system, but really just change it to a generator, and then import it to however you like. I'm going to import it just to the project because I'm not bothered about it being in the shelf. And so there it is, it just appeared right there. I can drag and drop that straight across, but obviously you can just click here as well and select it. And now it's immediately taken that information and obviously used it. You can see all the maps here, as well as a custom painting map right there, as well as like custom inputs that allow you to change various things, such as one of my favorites, which is the grass levels. Really lets you edit this very nicely, and also just turning the grass blades off is really useful. And so we're going to see right here one of the issues with this, which isn't really an issue, it's just I haven't unwrapped this very well. And say if you were really pressed for time and you didn't want to unwrap something properly, then maybe this wouldn't work for you immediately outside the box. But again, like I say, the whole point of this is for learning. And so what you could do is use a node that I've not actually used before. I'm just assuming this is how it works. But obviously, Substance Painter is based off Substance Designer. So if you needed triplanar, then just input a triplanar node. And as you can see, that takes some baked inputs as well. So it's quite necessary, as well as the actual input, which in this case is the grayscale texture map, I think. And then triplanar, it's triplanar color, and there you go. So there's your input. They've called it input X for some reason, but if I were to run through this system here, again, I could just edit this and make it work for me personally. Same goes for any of these things, like say if I zoomed in, there's my grass painter input, right? But say if I zoomed in and I see that I've got, this is where I add some variation to the base. Literally, if you just expose this as a new graph input and you name it appropriately, then you can just start working your way through and doing that dynamically as a slider in Painter. Obviously, some of that can lag if it's a very complicated thing, so I've tried to make it as quick as possible, which I will also mention if you're doing that sort of thing, you want to just enable your timings right here. So let's have a look. Yeah, display timings there. So if you're really getting into this sort of thing, then obviously you want to make sure that it's as quick as possible. And we can start seeing how long this sort of thing takes. so each of these add up and it stacks to generate certain things. Just very important for this sort. Just mentioning it is important for bringing things into the editor. So there you go. That's everything I think covered with that. And that's just really how it's done. When you want to export this in the same way that I did with the masks, again, that's what I've exposed in Substance Designer. I've added a switch right here that's going to take us to this RGB mask. And in Painter, once it's working properly, I can just turn it on like that. Nice and easy. It doesn't have to be one map. You can change this. You could add a multiple thing, export multiple layers there, add another generator, and texture it differently in layers. There's just a whole load of things you can do with it. And hopefully that's been interesting and useful to see. Again, you can buy this if you want to support it, or you can watch all my videos, or just learn from this video that I've just made. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next one.